It's just taking a little. Okay.
Hey Steph, when am I gonna know I'm on? I'm see my
You're
face on the-
live now.
Oh goodness, sorry about that. We're live. Well, good morning to each and every one of you, and welcome to Oweesta's 6th annual Native CDFI Capital Access Convening. We are so incredibly pleased that you all took the time to join us for our pre-conference day at Oweesta, and specifically for our pre-conference investing day. And with that, and in the spirit of our Native communities generally, when we convene, and we are so incredibly saddened that we're not able to come together this year in person as we normally would, but we always open our convenings with a semblance of prayer and gratefulness. And I am so very honored this year to have Karen Joseph, CEO of Reconciliation Canada, offer our prayer for the beginning of our day's festivities today. Karen? Karen, you're on mute.
Good morning, Crystal. Thank you
Good
so
morning,
much
Karen.
for inviting me here today. I'm really honored to be here with you and with all the amazing people that you're gathering today, and see the culmination of the wonderful work you've been doing. So for the rest of you, my name is Karen Joseph, and as Crystal mentioned, I'm the CEO of Reconciliation Canada, and I've been invited here today to say a prayer, and it's a really appropriate time right now, especially here in Canada with some of the things that we're looking at here, facing with the children of the Indian residential schools. And I was thinking about the work that you're doing, each of you, in terms of trying to put people in a better place when it comes to their finances, because I believe fundamentally that's what's going to save us as we move forward, is that sense of security and that sense of optimism and that revitalization of our purpose. So with that, I'd just like to say a small prayer, and I invite you to join me. And if you're not one that's more comfortable with that, even if you just sit and listen to the words in a different way, I'd love that. I'd really appreciate it. Yala Kasla, Great Spirit, I come to you today, and I thank you for this beautiful opportunity that all of us have to gather in this new way of being in circle. I ask, Creator, that as everybody attend this day, that they are reminded of why they are there and the important work that they're doing as they move forward for our people. And in doing so, Creator, we will help to reveal our own gifts and our own strengths, and be able to have the reciprocity that we long for in terms of providing our strength and our leadership to this world that we live in. I ask, Creator, that you remind everybody that we're all related to one another, but also to the original Mother Earth, to the sky and the beings on the earth. I thank you, Creator, for this day. And I ask, Creator, that you remind everybody of how much they are cared for and how connected we all are. Yala Kasla, Nathnamuyut.
So beautiful, Jimmy Glitch, Karen. I appreciate that. Thank you. So again, welcome to Oweesta's Capital Access Convening, our Native Investor Session. I'd like to lay a little bit of groundwork before we go into our sessions today. And we have 3 wonderful sessions specifically for our investor platform today. Oweesta is a 20-plus-year-old national Native CDFI intermediary. We have been working on behalf of Indian country for the past 20 years, really acting to be a bridge to capital to our Native communities. But I think it's important also to look at the scope of Indian country and the breadth of Indian country. So as we look at the lay of the land within the United States, we have 573 federally recognized tribes. We have over 60 state-recognized tribes and 30 unrecognized tribes. And add to that population base, we also have major urban centers and populations throughout the United States with large concentrations of Native Americans. So when we look and we're talking about Indian country today, that really is a vast landscape of different economies, of different needs. And we know that capital access has been incredibly important to really build sovereignty measures and to build an upward financial mobility and those opportunities for tribal members across the United States who generally didn't have access to capital. So when we look at the Native CDFI industry, again, Oweesta, National Native Intermediary Lender, we lend to these grassroots organizations. We provide capacity building services and in-depth training to really build the strength of these organizations. And what we found through the past 20 years, and especially as we look at COVID, our institutions have become the financial pillars of financial independence in their respective reservation and tribal communities across the United States. And one thing, and especially we're looking at the disparity of COVID, and we saw on a national level that marginalized communities really rose up in terms of what type of infrastructure do we have, what type of medical services. So we see exasperated quite a bit our marginalized communities really taking the brunt of that. And when we talk about Native communities, I think that there's misconceptions at times too, because when we talk of our target markets, it seems we're all very remote, which can be true, but also at the same time that we're not solely integrated within the national economy, and nothing could really be farther from the truth. So I'm going to throw out a couple initial data points. So when we look at tribes integrations throughout the United States and their economic basic standpoints in looking at contributing to the national economy, our tribes, our 573 tribes, contribute annually over 127 billion to national output economically. We provide 1.1 million jobs nationwide throughout the United States and 9.4 billion in tax revenue. So in looking at the economic matrix of tribes, each tribe is different, and Oweesta tends to really work with tribes that are in very remote and rural areas and areas that didn't have accessing to financing, to capital, to training for economic mobility until the advent of these institutions. A little bit about myself. I am a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa and the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin. And again, I am the CEO of Oweesta. One thing that we're very proud of, and what we find within the tenure of our longevity, we generally are the first investor in Native CDFIs to help meet their capital demand. And we've also been very innovative in the past 10 years in creating very original capital structures to really meet Indian country's demand. 2 years ago, we put together a $10 million capital aggregate pool that was needed for long-term capital for our Native CDFIs at a lower cost. And we have just completed putting together a 25 million COVID-19 Relief and Recovery Fund for Native communities, 15-year loans, 1.7% interest. So we really look and we really try to maneuver and provide avenues of capital for our Native communities. We're very, very proud of our successes throughout these past 20 years. And I think one thing you'll find is you start interjecting yourself in our conference and some of these panels is relationships are incredibly important. And while we see money as a transactional sense, when we look at what really works and what works in moving capital coming together on an equal measure, we have found really is one of the secrets to success. Over our past 20 years, we've distributed over $93 million to Native communities and experienced one loan default. That's something in and of itself. We're very, very proud that this last quarter's activities, we've reached the creation of 10,000 jobs through our 20 years of lending endeavors, created over 2,000 small businesses and created over 177 new housing units. And I think it's very important to note, as Oweesta being an intermediary lender, our success really is derived from the success of our local Native CDFIs throughout the nation and the local success of their tribal members and communities. So we have been providing this conference for the past 6 years. And our initial thought within the conference itself is we realize, working in the landscape of funding with conventional banking institutions, with foundations, with family foundations and asset management companies, we found that we were really working parallel with the social investing field per se, and the CDFI industry. So CDFI, again, is a community development financial institution. It's a program housed under the Department of Treasury, and really these institutions throughout the United States are meant to act as a leverage for capital and technical assistance resources where we normally find marginalized communities. It could be race-based, could be location-based, not having the regular access to capital like the rest of America enjoys. So one thing that we've really been concentrating on the past 10 years, I'd say, is to act as a bridge to capital, act as a bridge to new relationships, act as a bridge to new investors and investments within Indian country, not only necessarily within Oweesta, but within our communities at large. And we have been incredibly blessed with numerous partnerships, and specifically, we've been working the past couple of years with the Impact Finance Center, IFC, and Stephanie Gripney and her team, and we have created an Indigenous Investors Club, which we hosted in October of 2020. And this year, we also hosted an Invest with Purpose. And this platform really is looking to act as a bridge where investors can learn about Native communities, learn about the opportunities for investment. What type of investing are our Native CDFIs doing? What are they, normally concentrating on? What is the rate of return? When we look, a lot at investment opportunities, social impact and the amount of your initial investment really reverberates so farther beyond money, reverberates so farther beyond the capacity building, because when you're able to afford individuals with a platform of hope and opportunity, and you're able to provide a stability and a platform out of poverty, that is paramount. And for those that have lived in it, whether you have or not, when you have a sense of today is the same, but tomorrow can be better, and I have a platform and resources to get there, that's what our Native CDFIs do each and every day. So when we look collectively, last year alone, our Native CDFIs lent over $43 million to small business endeavors, $9 million in consumer lending activities, and over $19 million in housing efforts within their respective communities. And you will find that their portfolios rival Oweesta's portfolios. Again, it really is the magic of providing that technical assistance, the capacity building, the training, the capital, all in one. And we're seeing our communities flourish. We're seeing our tribal members flourish. And we're really trying to create a new platform for opportunity where we look at capital and we look at aligning justice with capital. But I think something very special about Oweesta and our Native CDFI's platform in providing these services, they're extremely culturally relevant and they're respective of their communities and very respective of relationship. So with that, I would like to introduce one of our dear partners, Stephanie Gripney, who is the CEO of Impact Finance Center. Again, one of our partners in which we've really been trying to bring Native communities, highlight Native CDFIs, which you'll see today, and really act as that bridge. So our agenda today, and I'll let Stephanie speak here in a moment. We're having our pre-convening welcome as we speak, and we have got 3 other panels for you today. So again, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. We have coming up Realizing Impact and Working with Your Community Foundations with Stephanie. We'll also have an Investing in Native Communities and an investor panel discussion. So I find this very interesting for those of you that are interested or haven't really dipped your foot yet in to Indian country. We'll have a host of panels that have been doing these investing measures for years or relatively new as well. And then we'll close out our session today with an investor club session where you'll be able to hear from 12 CDFIs and learn more about what they're initiating in their communities, what are some of their concerns, and what are their needs in regards to capital and some of their initiatives. So with that, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today, and I will leave you to have a few words.
Thank you so much, Crystal. The experience of COVID was traumatic, and one of the highlights for us was being in partnership with you. You're incredible. And how did we get to know one another? So if Oweesta helps, I think of it, Oweesta is your Native Impact CDFI guide. So they're going to help you find which Native CDFI to support. You can support many of them by investing in Oweesta, but if you said, I just want to support a Native CDFI in my own state or geography, Oweesta will happily help find and guide you to that right Native CDFI. We do the opposite. Impact Finance Center, I'm the CEO of a nonprofit, and we identify, educate, and activate individuals and organizations to become impact investors or using full spectrum capital. And who are these individuals and organizations? They could be a high net worth individual. They could be a wealthy family. They could be a private foundation, a community foundation, a corporate foundation. They could be a corporation themselves. And essentially, we're your impact guide. And from the perspective of being in partnership with Oweesta, what we want to do is find those individuals and organizations who maybe are at the start of their journey. They've never done a direct investment, and we want to help give you the education and support and technical assistance to help you make your first direct investment. If you are a seasoned impact investor and you just got turned on to the amazing opportunity of investing in Indian country, then we want to connect you to Oweesta and the other incredible 69 plus Native CDFIs to help you make those direct investments. And so I'll just give you a quick case study of how we became in partnership with Oweesta. We had a private family foundation, the Reese Foundation, and the brother and sister came to Impact Finance Center and said, can you help us on our impact investing journey? And we said, of course. We have 85 tools across your governance, the money you give away, your philanthropy, your direct investing, and your public investments. What are you thinking? And they said, we want to do a first loan, a first program-related investment from our foundation to a nonprofit. And the sister said, I want to invest in Native communities. And the brother said, he was at the Ford Foundation for 25 years, said, I want to invest, how about we do a Oweesta Corporation? And they were already incredibly thoughtful in that their first offer, they said, what about a $50,000 grant, which we would say is an impact investment at a negative 100% financial return, and $100,000 2% loan. And I said, that's generous and kind, because you realize that not only do CDFIs need loan money to lend out, they also need that grant money, that negative 100% investment for their own operations to provide the technical assistance. And many people don't know that unlike a public company investment, a CDFI basically sets aside, say, 10% in what we call a loan loss reserve or a safety net in case there are any defaults so that the investor gets paid back. And so they need both the loan money and they need both the donation or grant capital to do that. And so the brother and sister said 50,000 and 100,000. And I said, that's generous and kind, but two things, you're in a full spectrum fellowship, and shouldn't we go ask them what they want first? And so that's my advice for you, is just be open and knock on Oweesta's door or the other Native CDFIs and do what we did, which was, hi, can we have a conversation? And what do you really need? And Oweesta was great. They said, I said, what's the ratio of grants versus loans? And they said, for every $100, we need $25 in grants for $75 of loans. And so that ratio is really important when you go talk to the other Native CDFIs, to just sit down and get to know them in relationship to them and ask them what they need. And we were able to come back with the Reese Foundation and really talk about, can we pair a grant with a loan, with potentially even an investment out of the endowment, so we can give them that beautiful ratio from that perspective. And so that's what we do, is we help find those foundations, those high net worth individuals, those corporations. And if they're like, I want to figure out how to do a direct investment into Indian country and I've never done one before, we'll help you guide your way through that process. If you are a seasoned investor and you just need an impact guide, we'll directly connect you with Oweesta to make that happen. And I just want to reiterate what Crystal said. I don't think people appreciate this. They have been around prior to last year, COVID. They'd lent $79 million over 25 years with one partial default of less than about $4,000. And this last year, Royal We raised $27 million to support Indigenous communities in Indian country. And that's not enough. It's an important first next step. And the point is, it's a great investment. Many people don't realize that from 2008 to 12 and our Great Recession, CDFIs were actually one of the highest performing asset classes financially of all asset classes. They're not going to make you a ton of money in great times, but they're not going to lose you money in bad times. So if you're looking for a great fixed income opportunity, I can't recommend CDFIs enough. And if you live in a community with an active Native CDFI, I can't encourage you to reach out and get to know them and ask them how you can support them with your treasure and your time and your talent. And so, Crystal, I'll hand the microphone back to you. Thank you for including us in this journey and partnership. We're super grateful to be a part of it.
So grateful that you're a part of it. Thank you so much, Stephanie. So with that, we have a small video that we would like to show before we head into our first panel. Starting at 11 o'clock. So with that, I look forward to spending the afternoon with you. And please reach out to us, reach out to our Native CDFIs. We have an active chat function within the venue, ask questions. And also today, obviously, is a closed door session, meaning that we're meeting with you investors and a subset of our Native CDFIs, and our holistic conference starts tomorrow. So Tuesday to Thursday. So if you're not aware, upon registering for this session, it opens up our entire agenda. And I really implore you, if you have the time, to look over the next 3 days and participate within our overall conference, because it's at that juncture you're really going to see the breadth, the sophistication, and the need within our Native CDFIs, and so many wonderful stories of impact, of social impact, and really looking at how we maneuvered during this time of COVID to help some of the most vulnerable populations in the United States. And we did it very well, and we did it collectively. But one thing that we do know, not only as Native nations, but just as America in general, we need to work together. We do truly intrinsically to believe as Native individuals, we are all related. And I think the more that we start building these venues and building these momentums of really changing the structure of capital for our most vulnerable communities, we really see America rise up holistically in that measure. So again, thank you so much for your time today. Looking forward to spending the afternoon, and please join us our following 3 days of the conference as well. Thank you so much.
We reflect on the great strides our community has made this last year. Our community has shown resilience, strength, and solidarity. Last year, our Native CDFI partners dispersed over $72 million into their communities, most of it to struggling Native small businesses and families. Small business is the backbone for many Native communities. In times of crisis, Native CDFIs rallied behind Indianpreneurs to keep local institutions afloat. Last year alone, our Native CDFI partners dispersed $38.2 million in business loans to Native entrepreneurs. Coupled with nearly 2,500 hours of COVID-19 specific technical assistance, this capital funded 306 existing businesses, helping them to retain nearly 5,000 much-needed jobs. Native CDFIs are growing homeownership opportunities on Native lands. our partners lent $19.5 million last year, providing over 2,000 housing loans. But that's not all. Native CDFIs are building the housing landscape from the ground up, literally. In addition to offering mortgages and home improvement loans, it is exciting to watch our partners start to build homes in their communities and provide over 700 clients homebuyer education and counseling last year. Financial empowerment is critical for families to help them navigate through COVID-19. With the help of Native CDFIs, families in need received approximately $800,000 in credit builder loans, $1.36 million in debt consolidation loans, and provided 1,116 clients credit coaching. These services helped financially stabilize families when they needed support the most. Together, we can redefine equity and build financial sovereignty. Thank you for being a part of our community.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this pre-convening welcome. Join us for the next session through Attendee Hub. And we look forward to seeing you all at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Thank you.